It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Doing good.
Fabulous.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I don't have too much. I think I told you guys last week that Mayors of Kingstown has come back on for its third season. So I've kind of been catching up on that. That one's pretty good.
With zombie Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks really good. I mean, I keep, when you know something about someone, you keep looking. It's like, where, I don't.
Where's the part where they sewed his head back on?
Yeah, I mean, his eye was popped out of his head.
Nothing grisly about this show.
They
Right,
brushed the dirt off and stuffed it back in. It's all good.
They did.
Little super glue on the back of it, stick it in there. It's good as new.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's lost a little weight, but hey, everything he's been through, But other than that, you really cannot tell that anything happened to him. So, props to whoever did his rehab.
Is that the only reason you're watching this show?
No, I mean, no. It's
Yes.
It's pretty good because I've always said this is kind of like The Sopranos meets CSI kind of thing. But it's pretty cool because each season has kind of given us a different glimpse into this problem, and it's the town Kingstown. The main thing in it is a prison, so it's like everybody either works for the prison or something related to the prison kind of thing,
I am now in Sing Sing.
Yeah. And it just kind of the guy the mayor that Jeremy Renner plays, he's the guy who kind of walks between the criminals and the cops and guards and stuff. He can kind of go on both sides and get things done that neither one of them can do, are in the cop's place allowed to do because it's illegal. But, sometimes you have to bend it to make it all work. And it's kind of interesting because every time they've interfered with him trying to smooth everything over and not let him do it his way, it all goes to shit. So it seems like they've learned just let him do his thing. Everybody's happy when he does his thing. So, but this season is more centered on the Russians, and I guess Bunny is the leader of the Crips. So it's kind of outside of the prison, but a lot of their dealings is inside the prison, So it's pretty interesting if you like that kind of, crime drama kind of stuff, Definitely if you're a fan of Jeremy Renner, he does really good in this. But yeah, that's about it. I found I also started watching.
Oh, except for
one more. I started watching Tracker. It's on Paramount Plus, but now I started watching this because Jensen is in one episode.
Of course
He's not coming back. He's not doing any more with this TV series. But the lead guy, his name is Justin Hartley.
Yeah.
Which he's done like tons of voice work in the comic movies and stuff, or comic animation and stuff. But he also has done a podcast with Christina Ricci, which I didn't know about. Because do you guys start watching a show and you're like, hey, who's this guy? And then you get on Google and you start looking at this and you see, oh, they've done this and they've done this. And before you know it, you've pretty much fallen down a rabbit hole and you like know their entire life story.
Liz, you've met us. This is mostly what our show is based on. What are you talking about?
Well, that's kind of what I did with Justin Hartley.
Well, he was on Arrow. He was Roy Harper.
Yeah.
Arsenal.
And he was also on Smallville. He was
Yeah.
Green Arrow. Yep. But I had recently watched him in This Is Us. And he did everybody on that show did a good job. I think it won awards and everything else. So I hadn't heard anything about where he went after that. And in between Tracker and This Is Us, he did a podcast with Christina Ricci, and it's called the Harley Quinn and Joker Sound Mind. And he does Batman in it, and it's not bad. There's 10 episodes. I think I've only gotten into like the first 2 episodes so far. They're anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes long, so it's not like a long thing to listen to or anything.
So
But
this is like a radio drama type thing. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep. I've been listening to it on Spotify. But I noticed when I started watching this, the same people who do this also do, they've got one on the Riddler. They also have one coming up on the Joker. I don't know if that one started yet or if it's about to start yet. And they all say DC on them. So I'm going to guess that these are, DC produced and and done and everything else. So and it also looks like they've done a Batman one called Unburied. So yeah, if you're into that kind of thing and just want to listen to like short podcasts, definitely not ours. Like I said, these aren't bad. I don't have a subscription to Spotify, and I really don't mind where the commercial breaks and stuff have been in these. So, yeah, not bad. But that's about all I've really done.
Interesting.
I've picked up coloring again, kind of let your mind go blank kind of stuff, I say coloring, drawing and coloring, so I'm not using crayons.
Ain't nothing wrong with crayons. What you talking
And
about?
I'm not licking the pages, So, but yeah, that's kind of been nice. What I've kind of broke my free time into.
Cool.
It's kind of just nice to zone out for a minute, You aren't really thinking about anything or really doing anything. So
And doing something artistic and touching
Yeah.
a part of your brain that doesn't always get poked.
yeah.
It's
Which
cool.
is cool because it's also something I can do with the baby. So,
You can color on the baby with crayons. What?
yeah,
Sure.
she's washable.
I cannot argue with
She's
that
all
logic.
into that amazing digital circus, which I don't have a problem with amazing digital circus. I don't. I'm an adult though,
Uh-huh.
We all try to tell ourselves that, but go ahead.
right.
Mm.
I can handle mature content, I am mature
You
content.
kind of prefer it, right?
And it's kind of weird because, to my knowledge, now I have not looked recently, but Baby is like all into, Pommy and Ragatha and, all these characters and stuff. And I'm like, how the hell has she seen this? Because these are the same people who make Murder Drones. So it's like, how is she watching? I know how I watched it, but how is she watching this? And, I've told you guys about the YouTube thing, and my constant rule to her is don't watch anything weird and get Mimi in trouble, okay? That's our agreement with each other. So, I noticed that it's not YouTube, it's not the actual show that she's watching, but they've taken these characters and they're like all in YouTube shorts and the little cartoons. They've put it in Roblox. I mean, whoever the marketing is behind these guys is amazing, because here you've got a 5-year-old hooked on Pommy who's never even seen it before, She's seen all the other cartoons and games and that kind of thing, which is more kid appropriate. So, yeah. It's just weird when they kind of latch onto something that was yours, and it's like, maybe that's not kid appropriate. I wouldn't have let my kid watch this. But yeah, like I said, once you see what they've done with it, I don't know how they can do that without copyright. Apparently the guys behind this cartoon isn't as bad as Disney with copyrights and that kind of thing, or they've given them permission to do it, but it's everywhere.
Hardly anybody's as bad as Disney about that, but anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of weird.
Well, if she's watching it at your house, it's whatever she's watching is probably touching your algorithms. So it might have thrown
Or
it
hers,
there.
or
Right,
well,
it's blended into. They've both blended together a little bit, maybe.
it's kind of weird though, because I think YouTube goes a step above the algorithm. Just follow me for a second.
Oh, Lord.
I mainly watch YouTube on my computer. And when I do, it's usually some kind of, court show, crime show, something that kind of related. Well, she watches YouTube under my account signed in. But she watches all of those cartoons and that kind of thing. Well, if I go to my computer YouTube, none of that stuff is on there. So it's almost like YouTube knows, okay, when we're on the computer, we're watching people stab people. When we're on the tablet, we're watching cartoons. So it's kind of weird, but my stuff never shows up on her stuff, and so far her stuff hasn't shown up on mine. So kind of weird, but
Maybe it's better at making the distinction between devices than we might think.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean,
because then Phil also, he uses my YouTube account for music, and I never ever get song suggestions. I usually don't listen to music on the computer. So it's just kind of weird how it can be like, okay, on the Samsung, we're listening to this. Which is cool. I mean, I'm glad they figured out some way to do that, because I don't want smiling rainbow friends on my YouTube feed.
See, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's all I've done.
That's actually kind of plenty.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be 45-minute rants. It's all good.
Yeah.
Not naming any names.
But we all know.
Well, we all know.
Les.
Totally. Les is the king of the 45-minute rant.
Yep.
See, he's ranting about his CPAP right now.
Yep.
Okay, Mikey.
Well, all right. I guess that makes it my turn.
Mm.
I've been watching a little YouTube too, but I'm not watching stabbing people. I say that one of the things I watched probably involved a stabbing, but that's okay. It was part of a movie. I stumbled across a little ways back, a couple of months ago probably, a YouTube channel called Cult Cinema Classics. Um, and what it's got is a bunch of honestly pretty obscure movies. Um, as far as I've seen, they're all like public domain at this point, so it's a lot of really old stuff. But it's a really kind of eclectic mix of stuff. They've got crime stuff, they've got dramas, they've got sci-fi and fantasy, and just a whole bunch, just a whole bunch of random weirdness. And it's interesting because I managed to find something that I didn't know I was looking for. But when I found it, I realized that how interesting it was. And what I stumbled across was, and this is not going to sound all that weird. This is going to be but it's going to be a stampeding cattle through the Vatican moment here in a minute. I found a version of The Taming of the Shrew, which is a Shakespeare play. This is a movie, quote unquote, adaptation of it. It's a fairly faithful one. So what makes this through the Vatican, and you kind of have to be a Blazing Saddles fan to get that joke, is that this is from 1929, and it stars Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. Now, I had no idea they did this. I mean, I'm not a big Mary Pickford or Douglas Fairbanks scholar either, but this is like literally the second talkie that Mary Pickford did. And what the other thing that makes it kind of funny is, or fun, well, funny too, is that this particular choice of which Shakespeare play to do is interesting given the relationship between Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. They had a rocky marriage, to put it mildly. And so this is just kind of hilarious because it's the story of a woman who is just an absolute terror, and just her father wants nothing more than to marry her off, and she's just an absolute terror and absolutely hates everyone and will not even humor the idea and has no problem resorting to violence to get the point across. And so this guy comes in, this kind of semi-wealthy aristocratic type guy comes in and decides, okay, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tame her. And so this particular version spends just a skosh over an hour, which, as far as I know, is probably a pretty whittled down adaptation of the play. And obviously, this is literally 400-year-old literature at this point, so there's no spoilers involved. He finally does, quote unquote, tame her, although there's a very telling wink at the end. But I mean, like, for example, I know who Mary Pickford is. I'd never seen any of her movies until this, and so it was really kind of interesting. I found it. I'm like, oh, given who she is, I should watch a movie that she's done. So I watched it, and as an adaptation of this play, I mean, it's fine. It's not stellar or anything. The pacing is a little weird. It doesn't pace really smoothly. I don't think, I mean, it's early cinema, so they're not, I don't know that anybody has really gotten that particular art form down yet. But as far as the story goes, it's cool. It's interesting. It's interesting to watch these two kind of pound on each other. I mean, verbally and physically for a little while. It's entertaining. It's obviously in black and white, but it's a talkie. I mean, I'm not sure I'd ever seen I hadn't seen any Mary Pickford movies. I don't think I had seen a Fairbanks talkie up to this point. All the stuff I had seen him in was silent. So it was interesting in that regard for sure. I would recommend watching it, just if nothing else for the historical value.
Sounds like fun.
Interesting.
The other kind of interesting bit was the captioning. And I thought it was weird because it's in English. I mean, it's a Shakespeare play. It's in what passed for English in 1600, but it's in English. But there were captions on it, and I'm like, well, that's strange. And so I turned on. I mean, they defaulted to on. That channel, apparently, that channel defaults the captions to on for whatever reason. So you have to manually turn them off. But I left them on just for the fun of it. And I realized after a couple of minutes, I'm like, wait a minute. That's not what they're saying. The captions didn't match the words that were coming out, but it was in English. And it took me about 3 minutes to figure out, wait a minute, they're translating. They're translating this from Shakespearean to English so that people who are not familiar with 400-year-old plays and the way people talked and wrote back then can still understand it. I was like, that's actually really cool. They honestly took the time to change all of the weird stuff that Shakespeare wrote because he was writing in verse and changing the meanings of things a little bit by using different words that don't necessarily fit what he's talking about in some cases and translating into captions that made sense to someone from a modern perspective.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool.
That's pretty cool.
I had never seen that before. So, also, if nothing else, it's worth checking out for that. You can finally understand the Taming of the Shrew if you're not a Shakespeare scholar.
And that was on what?
It's on YouTube.
On YouTube?
This is a YouTube channel. I know, you're totally expecting me to say Tubi, weren't you?
I was.
Well, not this week, by golly.
Changing it up a bit.
Yeah.
I know. I just happened to stumble across this on YouTube, and because I watch YouTube stuff all the time. It's just usually not this sort of thing. And, hey, I'm game if it's out there. I just hadn't found it yet, But here we are.
Cool.
Very nice.
I'll have to find that.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's all I got.
Okay. Les?
I watched a couple movies this weekend. First is on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It's a documentary called Blue Angels. And it is a 90-minute documentary about the Blue Angels. And I recommend it because it takes you into flights. They talk about the group taking up 2 new members because they had people finish their run. They do this about every 2 years, and it's fun to see the group take formation, do their training, do all of their physical, which is pretty freaking amazing itself. And it's something that I was so proud to see. It originally came out, and I think it was in IMAX, and this was the television version. It's truly astounding to see. And it's amazing to see all of this happen. And just know that there are people like this that are truly astounding. So, yeah, if you get the chance, it's truly fun. The other thing I watched, I got an idea from the last issue of RetroFan I have. RetroFan covers all sorts of things. They cover Planet Patrol in this issue. They cover Thundar. They cover David Cassidy.
Oh, the reason why you picked it up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, no. Although it says "We Think We Love Him" on the cover, no. They brought up a classic. I'm trying to remember how long ago this was. It was a movie that kind of took the people by surprise. It's 40 years ago that this was done, and it is Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai in the eighth dimension.
I think I've heard of that.
I sure hope so. And when I watched it, I had the closed captioning on, which was smart, because there are so many scenes where so many people are talking, you can't distinguish what they're saying. But this kind of filtered it out.
So like our show then.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun to watch. It was fascinating to see a lot of the actors in it, and of course, it's known for its one-liners and things. And starring John Lithgow, he's got some of the greatest lines. What was the one about Monkey Boy? You guys remember that?
Monkey Boy.
It's been a bit since I've seen it, so I'm not recalling it right now.
But they talk about the characters. They talk about the art direction, the scripting, and the makeup. Because you think about it, and that makeup was astounding. And for them to switch in the middle of a scene from the aliens to the humans is truly amazing. It's fun to go back and see it again. The public didn't know how to take it. I remember that the wife and I went to see it at the theater, and it wasn't there too long because people were not showing up for it. But if you look at it now, it's so much funnier and so more effective than it was back 40 years ago. So, to me, it was a nice 2-hour bend in time and something that I could go watch again without a problem. And it was then, too, I would go see it again, but we didn't have that much money at that time. So that was about it for me. Just the 2 movies.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I had seen ads for the Blue Angels thing.
Yeah.
On Amazon, and I had been hesitating because I couldn't tell from the ads whether it was a documentary or a biopic.
It's a documentary.
And so that it's a documentary makes it more interesting to me.
Okay, yeah. I can understand that.
Don't get into biopics, so but yeah. And yeah, that stuff's amazing.
They have scenes from the museum where some of the stuff, and Gina and I went with her parents to Pensacola and saw this museum. It is amazing what they've done, and it's truly interesting because they have 4 jets from the Blue Angels suspended from the ceiling. And the guide that was showing us around said a member of the Blue Angels was kind of upset with the showing because they didn't show how close the Angels flew.
They hung the planes too far apart.
Yeah.
That's great.
They said that they were approximately 12 inches apart, and the documentary tells you similar. It's amazing how those guys can fly. And if you're in the cockpit, if you were to open if you open the glass above you, one of the guys could reach up and touch the wing of another flyer. It was like 18 inches between the 2 of them. And be doing these spirals and dives and the same is astounding. Plus the cinematography is amazing to see. To see them flying along and just rushing past. I remember seeing the Blue Angels twice in Oklahoma City and loved both times. So if you get the chance, yeah, try it.
Pretty cool.
Okay. Well, for me, a couple of things I wanted to bring up. First of all, shout out to Mash Matters. It's a podcast we've talked about before. Oh God, I spent, I don't know, a good 10 minutes or so laughing because they were going through. This was one of their episodes where they're reading emails and all that, and trying to answer some of the questions and all that. And they brought up one of the goofs that has been mentioned before, and I've never seen it. So, but there was actually a screenshot, and we'll have this in the show notes. It's from the episode where they weren't getting mail there for a while, or something like that. But Winchester was getting newspapers. That's when, and of course, everybody went to him so they can have something to read.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At that scene where he's confronting Father McKay, who found the newspaper and was reading it, and everybody kind of circled around them to talk, deal with this. If you look at the top of the screen, close to where the post is, the post where the signs of this many miles to San Francisco and this to Tokyo and all of that. If you look there, which no one does because everybody's paying attention to the argument and all that, there is a crew member standing there.
Whoops.
Dish blonde hair, long, light blue jacket or shirt. So I mean,
standing out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me. Is like, how come I've never noticed that? But once again, you're paying attention to everybody. The whole thing about fighting over the newspaper and all that. You're not paying attention to that. It's like, so someone finally took a screenshot and sent it in. So that's in their show notes. But the other thing was the one that got me to laugh. I mean, I watched this clip, and it's not even a minute long. But I just kept playing it over and over and over and over and over again because it was so damn funny. It's a blooper, and it's the episode where BJ came up with the idea of the families having a reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all remember this is like season 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This particular scene, they're in the OR, and this is after they've had the party, and Peg had wrote a letter to BJ saying, everything that had going on, and what a great time they had and all that.
Yeah.
This clip basically starts with Potter scolding Hawkeye, saying, because Hawkeye's dad danced with Mrs. Potter. And he was like, if he's anything like you, we're going to have a long talk and all that. And matter of fact, I think that was the line of dialogue. And then you start hearing Radar go back to reading the letter and all that. And you can barely hear him. It's really muffled, obviously, since they didn't, wasn't completed and all. So you're seeing Colonel Potter at the back. He's operating, and then the next one over is Winchester. All of a sudden, the director of photography walks into the scene, the camera.
Whoops.
And he's got his little measuring light and all that. And then that's when someone says, "Hey, I can't remember his name. I think it was Dominic or something like that." It's like, you're on camera, and that's when. But the thing that got me, and bless him, David Ogden Stiers, he was pissed because he throws down whatever instrument he's using, and you could tell there's daggers coming out of his eyes at this director of photography. You can tell he's pissed. Meanwhile, sweet, lovable Harry Morgan is standing there, and as soon as the director of photography walked in the scene, he goes, "The fuck is this, for Christ's sake?"
Why didn't they show that on TV?
I mean, come on, man. Would have been great for 1978.
All right.
Now you know why I watched it. It's because of him. I was like, okay, he can cuss and he do a pretty good job. Oh God, it's so funny. We'll definitely have that on the show notes for y'all to watch because it's I love it. Something else that I've just come across recently, but although it's been around for a year now. I've talked about this before on Twitch. Like late last year, there was the whole AI Santa, which was fun to watch. And then the same people who did that turned around and did an AI Jesus. Well, the one they're running now is a debate between AI Trump and AI Biden. And if they're not insulting each other, they're insulting the chat room. And it's kind of funny, some of the stuff that's being said. It's, of course, some of the chatters are making up words and that kind of stuff that would make them do weird things and all that. But it's been kind of funny to watch some of it. Because I know there was one where
Are you sure it's not just the debate you're watching?
Actually, someone said this is better than the debates. Certainly more entertaining.
Oh man!
But there was one where one of these chatters just came, it was like all A's and O's and all that, and it happened to be the AI Trump that was taking that question. So he's going, the next thing is, what the fuck was that? What the hell is all that about? It's been fun. So definitely check that out. We'll have a link in the show notes for that too. So. But that's what's been catching my attention right now, because, I hadn't really done a lot on Twitch for a while. I kind of got back on because I was wanting to watch someone play The Devil in Me, which is one of the Dark Pictures games from Submissive Games. And I was kind of wanting to watch someone play that again because I liked the story. And I just happened to catch this. I was like, what is this? I clicked on it, and I'm like, oh, crap. Okay. So, alrighty. Let's go ahead and get into this week's discussion. We are in the middle of Classic TV Month. And this should be fun. This should be a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so.
Probably a little bit more enjoyable than last week's.
Oh, yes. Well, our opinions varied widely on last week's.
What was last week's?
Nothing.
That doesn't mean not to want or listen to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I did not know this until I started kind of doing research on this. We're going to be talking about the show The Munsters and the Addams Family, and they debuted a week apart, just about a week apart. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
The Addams Family first episode was like September 18th, 1964. And then Munsters was September 24th.
Wow. Different networks, I assume?
Yeah, Munsters
yeah.
was CBS and Addams Family was ABC.
Right.
So direct competition.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So let's talk about these two classic shows.
Da-da-da-da. Oh,
Jeez.
man.
I could have gone all episode.
Oh, you guys know you snapped.
I didn't hear any snaps. She couldn't not sing the theme songs last week. Why would this week be any different?
Well, that's true too.
Here's the story.
Of a lovely lady.
Oh, God.
We should do that as an episode, you know?
We really shouldn't.
We should.
No, we really shouldn't. I'm not singing shit.
Name that tune. Da-da-da-da.
No.
Other than Lucy, growing up, these had to be my two most favorite black and white TV shows. Always.
I can't imagine
Go
why.
figure. Oh. This was another one that they played on Nick at Night. It's kind of weird that you say they were different from networks because I guess Nickelodeon, they didn't really care.
Well,
they
by
pull
the
all
time
the
they're in-
black and white shows.
By the time they're in
and,
syndication, it doesn't matter what network it aired on originally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're buying
I
the
guess
rights
not.
to show the series. It has nothing to do with the network.
Yeah. Now, as much as I like Rob Zombie, I have not seen the new Munsters yet. And I also have not watched the latest.
Wednesday.
Yep, I haven't watched Tim Burton's Wednesday yet. And I don't really. I watched one of the animated that they did of the Addams Family, and I didn't really care for that. So I haven't seen the other two that they did. But the original shows, I think, now maybe because I only ever saw it one way, but I couldn't imagine them picking better actors for those roles. Carolyn Jones, hottie, absolute gorgeous lady. And then who was the other? What was Lilith's name?
Lily
Yvonne
was Yvonne
DiCarlo.
DiCarlo.
Yeah. So I think as a girl, it also was kind of like, I can be spooky and it's okay. You know, I had good role models. So I did not know that John Astin, which is Gomez, I didn't know that was Sean Astin's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And Patty Duke, I think you guys
Yeah.
said.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That blew my mind. I mean, it makes sense, but that blew my mind. I had absolutely no idea on that one. And I don't know. I can't really say that he was a Nepo baby either. You know, he got smaller roles, which led to the bigger stuff that he did. So I guess maybe that's why I never pieced that one together. But Munsters was almost done in color. They shot the pilot in color, and the networks were like, you know, we like this, but we think this might be a little too scary for kids. And so they reshot it in black and white, and they kept it that way. I didn't know that. So I just thought that was during the time when TV shows were black and white because it was cheaper and you didn't have to have extra equipment and, you know. So.
Yeah, the color cameras were more expensive, but they were
Yep.
around.
And have you guys ever seen the Addams Family living room in color? It's wild. I mean, it is nothing like what you would think it would. It's I maybe that's why I like black and white. Your mind fills in colors that even if it's just a gray tone, your mind, if it's a curtain, it's red, it's kind of like your mind fills in those colors. When you see a colorized version of their living room, like the wallpaper and stuff is like pink because they needed it to shoot in a certain color of gray tone. So it's like you've got all these bright, vibrant colors.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, she would have hated this. She would have burned the house down or something. But it's pretty cool, even the science behind that of, we got to shoot it this color if we want it to look, this color on black and white.
Right. This specific shade of gray. Yeah, they could get real picky with that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
To where when people see it, I want them to think red, So it's pretty cool. I'll have to see if I can find that again and link it for you guys, because I was like, wow, that's insane,
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it looks wild. If I've seen it, it's been years. But yeah.
I don't recall seeing it, but that doesn't mean I haven't.
I'm not sure I've seen the colored pilot of Munsters either, to be honest.
I'm wanting to say it may not have been Seven Ghoulie, but it was a show like that. There was another guy who did the drive-in thing, and
there's been bajillions of those, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm wanting to say I saw it on something like that, like maybe Elvira or.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that they ran quite so consecutively. I mean, even both lasting 2 seasons. It's just I knew they were on. I knew it was around the same time. I didn't realize it was quite so competitive.
Yeah.
See, I thought
always
they
wondered-
ran longer than they did.
I always wondered if one was a ripoff of the other, but I mean, I can't. Given when they aired, I can't imagine that they were. I mean, there was almost certainly some Addams Family influence on the Munsters as it was being created, but I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
and obviously
Well,
the Addams Family was based on the Addams Family, but anyway.
Well, during this time, you had the MGM Monsters, who were still kind of popular. And also, that was another reason they decided to keep it in black and white, because it reminded them of the MGM Monsters. But
it's almost a parody of that stuff, so yeah.
yeah, I think that's what people liked. It was something you could sit down with your family and watch. That was, for the parents, was more reminiscent of those monsters that maybe their kids hadn't seen yet. But, and for the kids, it was just funny and clean. And the thing I also liked about both these shows, and pretty much all the older shows, it was very one episode contained. There was no ongoing storyline that you had to know, or anyone could turn the TV on to any season, any episode, and know what the hell's going on, And I guess they did that for the rerun factor, where you could break it all up and, play it however you wanted to without messing the story up. So my little ADD brain liked that. One and done.
Well, right. You just didn't get confused because of whatever continuity, whatever else you were watching had, and which is a nice feeling, I'm sure, when continuity is confusing.
Yeah. And back then, it wasn't like, oh, I missed the episode, I'll just watch it later on. You don't know.
Right,
you don't know
watch them
when
ever.
they're going to play that episode again. It may be, a day or two, or it may be weeks or months before they come back around to that one episode. So, it's kind of nice they didn't keep something like that to keep a story going. Now, I mean, it kind of helped if you'd seen some of the episodes, like who was Uncle Fester and that kind of thing, kind of some background, but it wasn't necessary to the story. And it was clean. I don't know if I mentioned that.
You did. I'm still not entirely sure what that means, but you say it kind of a lot. And whatever.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have to go off on that tangent now. But
Well, it was stuff you didn't have to censor.
you didn't have to censor
Any
anything
age
in the
group.
1960s, for Christ's sake.
Well,
it was all clean by that
Right,
definition.
which is why the TV shows were so much better. You didn't have a bunch of junk in them, And honestly, in this
like
time,
the junk you watch on YouTube all the time.
right, you didn't have a lot of like ad placements or anything else to make it feel commercial either. I think that came a little later on than these shows. And like Lucy, I don't think they ever put it in their episodes. It was clipped between their, takes of their show. So commercials, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So us watching reruns, we never would have seen that Philip Morris commercial she did, Just the viewing audience that night. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't commercial and sexed up. It was just clean. It was funny.
You have already mentioned Carolyn Jones' sex appeal in this.
Yeah. But you know what? The
So
thing of
much
it
for
is,
the clean.
I know, right?
they didn't like, I mean, yeah, the dress she wore, woohoo, but it wasn't, I don't know, there was more to her than that. Not to Gomez, but there was more to her than that. Sometimes when you get a prettier than average female dressed like that, she's usually the dumb one, Matter of fact, I think Munsters kind of played up on that with, Marilyn. Oh, she's pretty, she's not too smart, and she was freaking brilliant, But, yeah.
Also, she didn't look like the others in the family.
Yep. She wasn't pretty.
She was the mundane.
She was the
She was the black sheep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I liked these.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Yep.
They were
Nice
a lot
little-
of fun.
Gothic feel to them, Addams Family more so than Munsters. I think Addams Family was funny to whereas the Munsters sometimes could have been corny. It was funny, but it was like a corny kind of funny,
It was a different, It was a slightly different funny.
Yeah.
I will give you that. I actually kind of always related better to the Munsters, but
It was kind of more
probably because I was a corny kid. Who knows?
one-liners, kind of thing than the Addams Family was more of the long drawn-out joke kind of thing,
Right. I think the Addams Family kind of touched whatever the horror zeitgeist was a little better. It paid a little more attention to the scary movies and that kind of weirdness, whereas Munsters was a little more of a comedy around that than that.
Right.
It's like they were the Munsters were actively trying to make fun of it, whereas Addams Family seemed to just be addressing the fun in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that even makes sense, but
No, it does.
it's a subtle difference, I think.
Munsters was trying too hard for the ha-ha. To where the Addams Family just kind of knew if they let it play out,
Apparently,
it would be
she
funny.
nailed it. I don't know.
I guess so.
The Munsters was kind of comedy first, whereas Addams Family I felt like was
Story.
horror first, or at least high weirdness first.
Well, and I think they did play into the horror more, especially with the kids. You had Pugsley, who was always blowing something up or throwing knives at his little sister, cutting dolls' heads off. You had more of the scary stuff to whereas Eddie, he slept upside down. I mean, there wasn't. The scariest thing about the Munsters was probably Grandpa's laboratory. Did you see those cobwebs?
Oh, I always like the lab parts.
Yeah. Or the kitty under the stairs, you know.
Spot. Yeah.
Spot. Yep. But there wasn't a lot of scary, you know.
Right.
Cheshire was cutting the roses, and, you know, they had a dragon too.
Well, and they had Thing.
Yeah. And weird relatives.
Mm-hmm.
Like it.
Isn't it?
Well,
Grandmama.
Grandmama. Heck, she carried around a battle axe, didn't she? You don't want to mess with her. And I liked that Wednesday, you know, they got her name because Wednesday's child is full of woe. I think the TV show nailed that to where, as in now with the series and the animated, they kind of lean into a little bit more of the psycho part of Wednesday instead of the, I don't know how to describe this. There's a difference between being goth and being psycho killer. Or, you know, it's more of a, I don't know how to describe this.
Which is a damn shame, because I'm willing to bet a lot of people would love to hear it, would love to understand. I actually mean that seriously. You're laughing. I'm serious.
Who's laughing?
With the Wednesday TV series, the original, she was more sullen, more, you know, ooh, yay, you know, kind of thing, to where she did like bombs and headless babies and that kind of thing too, but she wasn't putting piranhas in pools, and it, you know, it was a different.
She wasn't actively
She wasn't
malicious.
psycho, right? She wasn't malicious. There you go. She wasn't malicious with it. It was more of a herself kind of thing. You know, Eeyore, perfect example. Eeyore would have been goth, you know. Woe is me, kind of thing.
So
instead
classic
of,
depression
yeah,
rather than actual
Yeah.
psychopathy.
yeah. Then I'm gonna hurt somebody.
Right.
Now her brother would blow you up, you know, but Wednesday was a little bit more, you know.
Wednesday was like 7 also.
Yeah,
I mean, later on
Yeah.
she got portrayed as being older and crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
But earlier on,
Like I
she
said,
was just a depressed 7-year-old.
I have not seen the newest TV series. I know that it did really good and good ratings and that kind of thing, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, people seem to like it, and it pretty much gave Jenna Ortega a career.
Yeah.
Which, great, that's awesome. Happy for her. I haven't watched it
Yeah.
either, but yeah, people like
No.
it.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those that I want to see it. It should be right up my alley. It's Wednesday in Tim Burton. You know? Check both boxes, you know. But it's one of those that I don't want to see it and hate it.
You're right, you're afraid of
Yeah.
what you're going to get. No, I
Yep.
do that a lot. I still haven't watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie because that very same reason. I mean, and people I've talked to have loved it, and
Mhm.
I'm still just scared that I'm just going to hate it.
Yep. Because they may like Dungeons and Dragons for a different reason than you do, and that's the reason why they liked it, you know.
Right, and I don't know. That's a complicated road to go down, but yeah, I'm afraid it's not going to be for me, despite the fact that I've played D&D for 40 years.
For how many you whispered out on that?
Did I? No, I didn't. I said it perfectly. I said it exactly the same volume. Fine.
How many years?
Fine.
I side with Gabby Johnson.
Rawr.
Howard Johnson is right.
Yeah.
What?
Anson Johnson is right about
And
Howard Johnson being right.
I think the Addams family got me ready for Lydia Deetz, who was my later on role model also. So,
I bet.
which to me was a rip on Wednesday. Totally, completely.
Sure.
It was a good one,
She's
but it was a rip.
For anybody who's not sure, she's talking about Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there in case.
No.
See, and she was what I was talking about the Wednesday with the woe is me instead of wanting to go psycho on somebody. Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. That's what Wednesday should have been.
Right. She just didn't want to bother. She didn't want to bother anybody with anything. She just wanted to.
Well, she didn't want to hurt anyone.
Right.
You know, or herself. She was just,
Right.
you know.
It's just easier to be alone.
Yep. Didn't like people.
Parents
I mean,
didn't
who
understand
can
her.
relate?
I mean, seriously. The only reason I was there are two reasons why I wasn't goth. One, that happened like 3 or 4 years after I was in that age range, and
Yeah.
two was it would have been more work than I was interested in doing.
See, I'm like scary white, so it wasn't a lot of work for me. Everyone's like, "Are you wearing baby powder?" No. I'm not wearing makeup today.
Just the dyed black hair.
Yeah. And crazy off subject. A guy on the internet the other day tried to school me on Robert Smith. Oh, you just don't know. And I'm like, really? You're like, what, 23? You don't know.
Fucker, I was a Robert Smith fan before you were born.
Right? I was his stalker. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Apparently the stalker thing's been going on for a while, guys. Just saying.
Right. I just switched when he got too old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that made me sound crazy. Jensen is over the age. He's like my age, okay? Robert Smith is like, what, 60 now? So.
Wait, 60's old?
Well, you know, from when I shifted my interest.
I bet he's older than that, but anyway.
Yeah, I bet now that I'm saying it out loud, I bet he is. Now I'm going to have to look it up. See, back in the day, I could have told you this and when his birthday was and what moon he was born under.
Damn.
Yep.
Not stalkery at all.
Had it bad. April 21st, 65 years old.
That I guess I'll buy. That would mean that he was fairly young when they were successful, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool.
And even younger before they were known.
Yeah, that is generally how time flows.
Well, yeah. But see, I listened to them when they were like import B-sides, you know.
I broke Tom.
I'm just going to go over here to my corner.
He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at my joke. That's at least what we're going to tell you, you know. So, Les, what did you think of The Cure?
Well, getting back to topic.
Somebody's got to do it.
But it was all goth.
Oh, no, it wasn't. That I know. I remember Aston from one of his first TV series called I'm Dickens, He's Finster. And if I recall, he and another guy played like carpenters. At least I remember them from a scene where they were carpenters. And I thought this guy's pretty funny. When the chance came by that he was going to be doing this new TV series, I was pretty happy. I thought, this guy is an actor. He knows what he's doing. And I followed him. The Addams Family was based on a cartoon. And the cartoon would appear, every other month or something like that. And they were one-panel cartoons. They were so witty. And then the creator decided, I guess I'll give them names. And that's where we get Morticia and Gomez. Now, a lot of the stuff on the TV series was stuff that he did not create. The items like Morticia's love of the
Bridge?
Yes. That was not part of his. Because his Charles Addams cartoon or comics were one-liners. Either they were one-liners or they were just a sight gag. And that kind of was unique at the time. So it was nice to thumb through the paper and laugh. And it was what publication was it? Do you guys remember?
No. I had always assumed it was like newspaper, but...
No, it was a magazine. But...
New Yorker.
Thank you. It was just a quick sight gag. And it would make you laugh. And they decided to create this new program, which was like kind of happy they did. And it was something that really caught on quick. The fact that they had so many things going was kind of fun. And it was one running gag per episode. And the gags were something that carried it. It was strong. It was something that the TV show was something most people could enjoy. I don't remember my parents ever watching one, but I can understand why. That wasn't meant for them, so they didn't buy into the whole story. But it was something that was solid and could really sustain itself, which it did for a while. Now, the Munsters, yes, they were based on the monsters on the movie screen. And they were created because the people wanted fun monsters, so they had the Munsters. And it took off also. It's truly amazing how these things would stick together. If anyone wants to jump in,
he said, "Save me, save me."
They were fun, and I thought of the two, I probably enjoyed the Munsters more because I could recognize them.
Yeah.
But I was very happy in the 80s that the young girl from Addams Family did the Playboy episode or show, and was still very lovely at that time. So take that, Jensen.
I don't think I've ever seen Jensen at a Playboy.
He was in Playgirl.
Ah.
Does that count?
Maybe that's the problem.
I don't know if he was in Playgirls. Good Lord.
He's not.
How would I? Oh, you got your subscription handy?
No, that would be like all over the internet, you know. Instead, we get that nice little smile.
Until he's mad.
Even then, it's just a different kind of smile.
What have you, Thomas?
Well, I've enjoyed both these shows. I think when I was younger, I gravitated toward the Munsters more, and I guess it's due to the comedy. It was definitely more visual, especially Fred Gwynn. Oh my God. He was a sight to behold.
True.
But as I got older, and I started to appreciate the Addams Family a lot more. But yeah, I enjoy both these shows. Something that's never been explained. Frankenstein's monster and a vampire, and then they have a werewolf kid.
It's the genes.
That was the milkman kid, you know.
But whose genes were you talking about?
Right.
Who was in those genes?
Thing?
It's hard to tell. We never saw what kind of pants he was wearing.
That's true.
And he was made of different parts, so, you know, he may have had a different part to make a werewolf.
Nope, not going to buy it.
As I say, there goes our rating.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what else makes sense?
Well, and the joy of it all was, I mean, at the time, it didn't have to make sense. Nobody cared.
No one cared.
Anybody who cared was clearly overanalyzing a TV comedy and needed to walk away and have a nap. So,
Okay, bye.
hell with it. I know we spent the last hour doing just that, but anyway.
Yeah, both of these are fun shows.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. And I think they both held up to the time, too.
Yep, they're still funny if you watch them now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now
there's not
the
a whole
movies-
lot of times I'm like, ooh, they couldn't say that now. They can.
What were you saying, Les?
Now I can't remember.
Okay.
About the movies.
Oh, the movies were not that good. And I'm talking all of the movies.
Yeah.
There were, I want to say, at least 3 Munster movies. And
Yeah.
4 or 5 Addams Family movies. It just did not impress me.
Yeah. I think part of that problem is, and this goes for sequels and stuff that they do now, when you have a group that works that well together and you've hit lightning in a bottle, you know, it's hard to redo that without having that same
group.
Yeah, that same bond and know how to work off each other. They could hate each other, but they all knew how to work really well with each other. You know,
And it's hard to recreate that kind of chemistry.
It is. It
different
really
people.
is.
It's also especially hard to do it 20 years later or 30
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
some cases.
Well, and it's also a different time period that you're trying to capture that into. You know, a lot of things that were funny then it's not too funny now. You know, and it's hard. Yeah. They just hardly ever work.
And
You know.
keeping them the same basically shifts them out of time, but updating them to modern times changes the characters too much.
It
And
does.
so unfortunately, Hollywood has not learned the lesson and continues to just not leave things alone. But
Yep.
anyway, that's a different argument.
And I'm surprised that both of these only lasted 2 seasons. I realized seasons were a lot longer than they are now, because I think each of them had 64 episodes. And that's a lot of episodes. Today's terms, that would have been like 5 or 6 seasons.
Yeah, that's like 8
you know?
seasons now
Yeah.
over the course of 15 years, because that's how often they come out anymore. But
Yep. And I would have sworn until I looked at the number that there was more. I guess because all the reruns, and since there is no continuity, it's hard to keep track of,
you're watching them over and over again,
Yep.
and they're the same episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter because they're still funny.
They're still funny. Yep.
I'm not sure on Addams Family, but with the Munsters, I did see that they were up against the Batman, the Adam West Batman.
Superheroes won out, huh? Well, didn't Batman only go for a couple of seasons too, though?
Yeah,
What was it, 3?
2 or 3, something like
2.
that.
Maybe that was just the number back then. Give us 2 good seasons, and we'll play it for 40 years.
And then we'll come up with something quote-unquote original,
Yeah,
because it's not, but,
Maybe. We just may spin this a little differently,
right, we'll just change the names and fiddle with it.
Yep. Now you got Marty and Gigi. Oh, Lord.
Instead of Wednesday and Pugsley? What?
I was thinking instead of Morticia and Gomez.
Oh.
Swip them out. Yeah, you know they would.
Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat.
Yep. But I also think with the sequels, it's not necessarily the show that you're trying to capture again. It's the nostalgia that people have built to these. And when you watch something new, you're not capturing that little kid who hadn't seen 50,000 movies since then, or, you know.
But are kids interested in it now?
The newer crap they are.
Newer crap.
I think you scare a lot of these younger people when you're like, oh, it's in black and white, because they're like, oh, great, did your dinosaur film that? You know, they don't understand that, you know, there was a lot of good television before it was colorized. And a lot of shows could have been colorized, but decided to shoot in black and white just for that black and white feel, you know. But yeah. I think some would be surprised.
I'm not sure that answered the question, but okay.
No.
What was the question again?
The question was about whether kids are interested in shit like this, and the answer I think has more to do with the marketing of it. I mean, it's a question of how much they can get people interested in it. It's a question of how much they can get people to just watch the first episode.
Yeah.
After that, it doesn't make any damn difference because you're banking everything on the first episode anyway.
Well, and sometimes when you get things like the Wednesday TV series, you'll see a surge in, you know, more of the Addams Family being played on TV and stuff. So they may watch it for that, for kind of background on the new stuff. But, and like I said, you compare the new to the old, and it's just not even the same anymore, you know?
Nothing ever is.
Mm-mm. I think they're like, yeah. Yeah, it's not the same.
It's a juggling act. They're trying to use the young cast members to appeal to the young viewers, and they're trying to use the nostalgia to sell to the older viewers. So they're trying to. We're back to that audience plus 10% thing I mentioned not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to expand your audience in a situation where human nature causes the audience to contract.
Yep.
Because that's just the way people are. Not everybody is as nostalgic as, I mean, like us on the show, for example.
Right.
I mean, we're all.
Well, your interests change and stuff, you know.
Right. I mean, a large chunk of the movie industry is based solely on nostalgia anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're trying to continue to sell the same things over and over again. I'm going to depress myself if I'm not careful.
Okay, well, final thoughts?
I think they're both very watchable. 2 thumbs up.
If for some reason you have not seen either of these shows, check them out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Get that rock off you. And I bet both of them at any given time are on TV somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know Pluto TV has a channel specifically for Addams Family. I'm not sure about Munsters.
And I bet MeTV plays both of them sometime.
Oh, I'm sure they're on every day.
Probably.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple more shows where they're on somewhere sometime.
Yep.
Around the world.
That's what makes them classic TV.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with Geek News for you. And we're back. It's time for Geek News for you. In this segment, we bring a couple news items to the table for discussion. This week it is Liz and myself. And Liz, would you go first, please?
All right. This one kind of falls into what we were talking about with nostalgia and sequels and if they can capture that feeling again. Inside Out just came out. Part 2 is in the movie theaters right now. And they are saying that it is behind Incredibles 2, which was the most anticipated sequel. It is the biggest block office that Pixar's had. Yay, finally. I'll say they needed this win. With the last 4 movies that they've put out, they've just totally bombed at the box office. We had Onward, we had Soul, Lightyear, and Elemental, which did nothing. I don't know if they should really put Onward in that category because I think Onward came out during the pandemic and it was kind of a theater home release kind of thing. So I don't think that movie got enough marketing that it should have gotten or enough attention that it should have gotten. Some of the other ones like Soul and Elemental, had I have not been on like, I guess in the algorithm for animated stuff and everything else, I would not have known about those. Pixar did nothing to promote them. They did nothing to kind of push them to us. There was no build up to those movies. Now go back to Inside Out 2. With the first one, there was a lot of build up. It was something different. It was something that no matter how old you are, you can relate to your feelings getting a little out of whack and you don't know what's going on, you know? So it was a very relatable movie, something that wasn't superheroes or far-fetched. It was your own emotions, you know? People liked it. It, like I said, it hit with young and old audiences because it's something we can all relate to. Most of us have had that time in our lives where our family has moved and we've lost our friends and we're starting all over again, and just the feelings that can bring up. So, definitely hit with the audience. So when part 2 comes out, she's a little older now, and now instead of your normal childhood feelings you're dealing with, let's throw anxiety into the mix of your emotions now and see how well you deal and cope with that. Once again, relatable to young and old audiences. I think the older, I shouldn't say older audience, but some of the younger kids who watch this are now older and they've kind of grown with this character, and now it is a new set of emotions that they're dealing with and can relate to this. So after the big block office hit and, everything's hunky-dory, Pixar's got to win. Once again, executives who don't know how to read the room turn around and go, see, you guys were wrong. You do want sequels. Well, yes and no. We want sequels that are done right. We don't want you to take the first movie and just put it in a blender and give us that as the sequel, which is usually what they do to us. I think Toy Story, the first couple of movies, was cool because once again, you had a audience that was growing with Andy, and, they could relate to that. But then you waited so long to put out another one to where this age group that was growing up with Andy, they have no interest in Toy Story anymore. You have missed your, that whole, nostalgia feel that you were going for, those kids aren't watching this now, you know. So I think this one did well because they didn't wait so long. The age group that you really hit it off with the first one is really identifying with the character here because they're the same age now. And I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of sad that they took it like that because now there's going to be so many more sequels. But I said I'm really happy for this one. They're saying that this is the best box office hit since Barbie.
Yeah.
Which, wow, you know, that's kind of amazing in itself because we usually don't see animation do that. Definitely not to compare to the regular movies. Opening day, they made $62 million and opening weekend was $155 million. Now that is not in-game numbers or money, but once again, we're talking about animation. Animation does not usually do that unless it's like Frozen, which every once in a while you have kids who just go crazy for one thing and, you know, just so happened that time it was Frozen. But also said it beat out Super Mario Brothers, the movie. That's kind of impressive. You know? I thought Super Mario Brothers was done very well. I don't know. I'm curious on how some of these numbers are taken. Because, like, after Mario left the theater, it went directly to Paramount Plus, and then you had all of those viewers, too. Now, they do make money for that, so I don't know if that's included in first run opening numbers kind of thing, or if that's, like, a secondary number that they put out later. But, like I said, I am kind of curious about that one, because that was a split release. So when they do that, I don't know how they total the numbers on that. But like I said, pretty cool. I'm definitely going to take the baby to go watch this one because, like I said, it's you know, this is one of the cuter ones that Pixar has done. So yeah, pretty cool. Definitely a big win for the animation world. Oh, and also this movie was produced after Pixar downsized 14% of their workforce. So it was definitely a win that they needed. Definitely a win that they needed. So 2 thumbs up. Yay. Good for them. I said, I'm kind of surprised. I really am.
Well, I mean, this surprised a lot of people. Just remember I mentioned it last week about the whole thing about Bad Boys 4. Opening weekend domestic box office was $56 million, and that was the best of the year.
Wow.
I mean, because I talked about the Furiosa, the Mad Max prequel.
Oh, yeah.
That had done domestically, that had done 58, and it had been out for like a month. So Bad Boys, you know, obviously. So this is back-to-back weeks where the box office has been pretty impressive. So
yeah,
I don't, you know, I think
June.
there's, and yeah,
Summer, maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I think our next one that we see is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that will smash all the numbers. Just for all the hype it's received, the way that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are off movies, you know, in real life with each other and everything else. I think those are a good combination, and it's really going to show at the box office for them.
Well, that's what they're hoping. We'll see.
Right. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. Yep.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you guys saw today. I will post a picture in Discord, but a couple of new photos from the movie had been released, including our first look at Dogpool.
Dogpool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my goodness. He's so cute. I want two.
Of course you do.
That is so cute. And I absolutely love that look that Hugh Jackman's giving. I'm like, are you serious? That dog looks like you.
They were made for each other.
They were. He's cute, though.
God.
I wonder if there's a story behind that dog, though. That particular dog, not the character.
So, okay. I guess it is my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of follow up to a story that we brought you last week. Mikey did. Alamo Drafthouse made the news again as they were bought by Sony Pictures. And boy, that has got some people talking. So this is actually the corporate. This is not as of right now. This is not including the ones that we talked about last week because those were franchisees, and obviously they went into bankruptcy, so they can't get them right now. But they got to. They're going to have to be in the DFW area. It was because of this I had found out about the Paramount Consent Decree. You guys heard about this?
Well, no.
Okay. The Paramount Consent Decrees, quote, were a set of rules that came into effect in 1948 as a result of the Supreme Court's decision in United States versus Paramount Pictures. The decrees were intended to prevent the vertical integration of film studios and stop monopolistic practices that gave wealthy studios an unfair advantage over competitors. So basically, studios could not buy theaters.
Yeah, that was them starting to push them out of the theater business.
Yeah. And this was actually, this was scrapped back in 2019 or 2020. So this is the first we're seeing of this type of stuff. So doesn't mean that the studios are going to get back into the theater business, but who knows? They said that they're not going to go Sony exclusive. They'll show films from all studios. Or at least that's what they're saying now.
Well, I mean, Sony operated stuff does that anyway, so.
So we'll just see. We'll see what happens to this. Of course, the questions are they going to change the format? Are we losing? Will we lose the things that made Alamo the place to go to? And I did not see anything in this article saying one way or another.
Right.
But I mean, the timing is a little odd. Obviously, this was in
the works, yeah.
In the works for a while, but the fact that it literally came down a week after the franchisees declared bankruptcy is, just seems a little suspicious. But
yeah, that does.
But I have nothing to back that up, so
Right.
It's all just a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know when they're up and running.
The ones that closed? I
Yeah.
don't know that there has been any announcement on that at this point.
Yeah. I hadn't heard anything yet.
Okay.
I mean, Alamo was vague when they said that to begin with, so.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Be nice to have him back.
It would.
Alrighty. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No, not me.
Nope.
Nothing here.
Okay, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, we want to thank Pop Goes to Culture for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasters. You can check out the network. Got a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who have been kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter/X by retweeting our links. And the best way to do that is to go to X or Twitter, however you call it. Just do a search, #PodernFamily, all one word, and scroll through whatever catches your eye, by all means. Click on the links and download the episodes. We hope you have a great time checking them out. We also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying music to our podcast. There will be a link in the show notes where you can listen to some of their other music. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. We do have a Discord that you're free to join if you so choose to. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, stuff to listen to. We'll have activities on there as well. But we do have a channel specifically for feedback that you can post your thoughts there if you like. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram and Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,